Welcome to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to get into this one because today we're unpacking a principle that completely redefines how we look at success. We're so often taught that achievement requires this agonizing, endless grind. We kind of think we have to sacrifice our sleep, our sanity, and our precious free time just to inch ahead. But today, we're looking at a concept that totally takes the pressure off while actually delivering far more sustainable results. It's a fundamental shift in how we approach our daily routines, and honestly, it starts with rethinking the very mechanics of how progress works. So let me ask you something directly. What if you could completely transform your life without making any drastic changes? Think about that for a second. It sounds almost entirely counterintuitive, doesn't it? I mean, we are so conditioned to believe that massive success requires a massive, agonizing upheaval of our lifestyle. If we want to get fit, we automatically think we need to practically live at the gym. If we want to start a business, we think we got to risk everything we own overnight. We just constantly equate the size of the result with the size of our initial effort.
Okay, let's dive into this because we constantly see these exact myths glorified everywhere. Hustle culture basically tells us that if we aren't waking up at 4 a.m. or grinding out 18-hour workdays chasing that overnight success, well, we're just falling behind. We're sold this illusion that if we aren't literally suffering or if we haven't completely overhauled our entire existence by tomorrow morning, we're failing. And I just want to validate that feeling right now. It is exhausting. And frankly, the data backs this up. It leads straight to burnout. When we set these monumental expectations for ourselves, sure, we might stick with them for a week or two through sheer willpower, but eventually, our energy completely depletes. That unsustainable pace catches up to us, and we just quit.
So let's pivot away from the overwhelming burden of those drastic macro changes. What if the answer is actually incredibly simple? We really don't need a total life overhaul or some complicated 1,000-step master plan. We just need to shift our focus from the massive to the micro. And it turns out our brains handle tiny shifts so much better than grand, sweeping resolutions. You see, in behavioral psychology, there's this fascinating concept involving the amygdala. That's the part of your brain responsible for the fight or flight response. When you try to make a massive lifestyle change, the brain literally perceives it as a threat to your current, comfortable routine. And bam, it triggers resistance. But a micro shift? It completely sneaks past that internal alarm system. 1%. That is it. In a world constantly screaming at you to give 110%, we are dropping the anchor right here at a mere 1%. Because this is what true, sustainable progress actually looks like. Look, when we try to give 110%, we are relying incredibly heavily on motivation. And let's be real, motivation is a notoriously fleeting emotion. You can't depend on it when you're exhausted, stressed out, or just having an off day. But 1%? That relies on simple, manageable systems. It requires almost zero motivation to execute. It's an effort so incredibly small that it's actually harder to fail than it is to succeed. And that built-in success gives you the exact momentum you need to keep going.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how easily the human brain completely dismisses the concept. Getting 1% better every single day sounds almost too small to matter, right? Most people completely ignore it because, hey, they want the quick fix, they want the overnight hack, or that dramatic transformation montage we always see in the movies. But this incredibly simple definition, the 1% rule, is actually the silent, humming engine of true transformation. Because it's not about the intensity of your effort, it's about the consistency of your execution. It's all about building the identity of someone who simply shows up, day after day, without fail.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why that 1% matters so much over time. I mean, on day one, the difference between getting 1% better or staying the exact same is completely invisible. You aren't going to notice a thing. You won't look different in the mirror after a single workout, and you definitely won't be a genius after reading just one page of a book. But repeated day after day, that tiny improvement compounds. Mathematically speaking, if you get just 1% better every single day for 1 year, those gains don't just add up, they multiply. You literally end up 37 times better by the time the year's done. That tiny, seemingly insignificant daily choice creates this massive exponential curve in your trajectory. You start out totally flat, but eventually you rocket upwards. So the crucial point is that it's not about working harder, it is all about progressing smarter. This concept is frequently called the most important success principle you'll ever learn, and the underlying logic backs that up entirely. Adopting this 1% mindset is literally the ultimate antidote to toxic hustle culture. It removes the anxiety, and it completely dismantles that awful paralysis of perfectionism we all get.
Just think about it. If you're trying to write a book, don't agonize over finishing a whole chapter today. No, focus on just writing one single paragraph. That is your 1%. It's achievable, it's low stress, and it keeps the wheels moving forward.
Which brings us to a very important, provocative question for you to take away from this explainer today. What is your 1% improvement today? Seriously, you do not need to change everything about your life. You just need to change one tiny thing right now. Maybe it's reading one single page of a book. Maybe it's drinking one extra glass of water, doing literally 2 push-ups, or just spending exactly 5 minutes organizing your workspace before you log off for the day. Find your 1%, execute it, and just watch how it compounds over time. Thanks so much for exploring this with us today, and hey, keep making those micro improvements.